That summer, the famed horsemen of Bactria were gathering. The Sogdians too came out in revolt. For 2,000 years or more, they bred the finest horses in Asia here, and they fought the kind of war Alexander had not prepared for. No battles, just hit and run. You can imagine what he was up against when you see them play buzkashi. And this is just a game. Alexander couldn't beat us because we were such good horsemen, the old man said. Even an 80-year-old could ride and throw a spear. As horsemen, we had greatness. Our forefathers used to say, the horse is the wings of the man. A horse is strong and fearless, like a fierce spirit. In heavy fighting, Alexander was seriously wounded in the head and throat and lost both sight and speech. Worse was to follow. A Macedonian column was wiped out near Samarkand, their first defeat in 30 years. At his base on the Sir Darya River, he suddenly found himself crippled and at bay.
Alexander was now one of the lowest points in his entire career. Surrounded by enemies, he was suffering from a leg wound, he had malnutrition, dysentery coming on. His throat wound had not healed, so he could hardly speak. His voice was so quavering the people even close to him couldn't hear him. He couldn't stand in the ranks, he couldn't ride a horse, he couldn't give his army encouragement and instructions, the very thing on which his generalship depended.
There's a vivid image of Alexander at this moment, opening his tent flap at night to gaze across the river at the twinkling fires of the nomad armies. Being Alexander, though, he had to act. He forced his way across the river and won a stunning victory, even though his dysentery was now so bad he had to be carried back. Now began his hardest war. That winter he regrouped in bulk. The next spring, massively reinforced, he took fire and sword across Central Asia. 5 mobile army groups, 50,000 men, spread up the river valleys of Tajikistan in a search and destroy operation almost as far as China. In the autumn, they reunited at Samarkand. Samarkand, the most famous and glamorous city on the Silk Route. In Alexander's day, it was the chief town of Sogdia, today's Uzbekistan.